So, Brian and Madeline, welcome. Thank you for coming in. Everybody here is so excited for both of you to be start launching this project after so much work. Uh, I have in my notes to invite Brian to come on and kind of give us a little bit of the backstory about how you guys met and how this particular connection happened. Brian, come on in.
Hi, James. Thank you. And thank you for that introduction. And thanks to all of you for being here this evening, this afternoon, this morning, whatever time it may be. I'm so glad you could join us. I'm so glad to see your support for Madeline and for this book. Um, as James said, this book has been some time in the making. And I'll tell you a little story about how it came about that's going to speak to, I think, some of the really interesting and unique things about this book. Um, so about this time last year, I joined Friendship Press before I was working at another publisher, and I came on as the CEO and publisher of Friendship Press. I was very excited, and we had almost nothing in the hopper for publication, and I was like, "Oh no!" And a friend of mine actually mentioned you should check out Madelon Maupin at BibleRoads.com. I think that is something that you might be interested in publishing. And I checked it out, and very quickly I realized, how have I not heard of this before? I'm really, really excited about this community and about this incredible leader of this community. And so I reached out to Madeline. We started a conversation, and um, and in the course of that conversation, one of my favorite questions to ask a potential author is, what is on your heart to publish? What is something you're excited about? Because that passion can really go a long way. And Madeline mentioned this book about women of the Bible and how she had just led this series and how she was already thinking of turning it into a book. And so I said, that sounds great. I would love to do a book on this. Send me a proposal, and let's talk about it. So Madeline sent me a proposal, and as she tells the story, she and I met at the AAR SBL annual meeting last November, and she may have a different take on this, but the way I've heard her talk about it is, I showed up to that meeting with the whole proposal marked up, and the thing I had underlined and circled was the part about Madeline's story, about Madeline's background as a business leader, as an entrepreneur, as a leadership coach and consultant. And I said, this is the heart of the book. This is what makes this book something that only you can write. We know you've got the biblical chops. This is something that really is going to set you and your perspective and your book apart. And so I said, lean into that, put more of yourself into this book. And Madeline took that idea and ran with it. And we've got this book. You've all probably seen the cover. I've got it up here to do a little bit of show and tell. I'm just so thrilled about this book. I think Madeline did a fantastic job of writing it. And clearly, she has an engaged audience that is excited to read it. So thank you again for being here. And I'll kick it back to James, who or to Madeline. I don't see Madeline on here. I hope she's still on.
Madeline's on my screen.
Oh, there
She's
you
right
are. Okay.
beside you.
I'm
She's right
here.
beside you. Yeah,
I add James to Brian's story?
sure.
Okay, so we were sitting at a Starbucks at the San Diego Convention Center. I had never met Brian before. We had corresponded, and he had this copy of the book proposal. But on page 3, I had added this tiny little two-sentence statement and said, I'm not an academic. I don't have a PhD, but these women have been real to me. They were my role models all through the years. And when he showed up, he flipped to that page, and I saw there was only one thing highlighted on the entire proposal. And he said, "Only you can write this book." And I went, "Well, I don't want to disagree with you, but I don't have a PhD, and there are a lot of people who can write this book." And then he said, "Not with your stories." And I was shocked. I said, "My stories?" He said, "You need to put your stories in." So that became, frankly, a very different undertaking. And the joy of this is that now I think it'll be a more interesting book for people because my goal, as you all know, who have been with me in Bible Roads for a while, has always been to show the Bible's relevancy, not to have it on a, on a dusty bookshelf somewhere, but uh, being read and alive and active. So anyway, that's the skinny. So Brian has been an amazing partner. James and Steve, who you all know from Bible Roads, have been so critical in this process. So, and you all are going to be the most important because you'll be the readers. So, thank you for that.
Okay. I want to come in here real quick. It is just wonderful to see everybody here in this amazing mosaic of all of the faces. We're just about to spotlight Brian and Madeline. We wanted to give them a chance to talk with you all while you could all see each other as well. But now we're going to spotlight Brian and Madeline. So you might, depending on your configuration, just be able to see a strip of people or whatever. Um, but Steve, let's go ahead and pin Brian and Madeline so that everybody can really see them.
They are pinned.
Okay. Steve, are you seeing just them large?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Great. Let's keep going.
Okay. So I thought I would share a little bit about how about what excited me about this book and how it sort of fits into what we're doing at Friendship Press. So as James mentioned, our tagline, who we want to be as a publisher is a publisher who produces Christian books, Christian resources that create a better future for all. So we talk about faith for a better future. And within that, we try to really focus in on four different kinds of books. Number one is works of spiritual formation, because a better future is one where we're all growing closer to God, where we're all deepening our spiritual life. We talk about we want to publish stories of God's grace, accounts of the way God has worked in the lives of individuals and communities. We want to publish about faith practices for a changing world. We know we're in a world where technology is driving a lot of change, and we want to say we want faith to be an important conversation partner. So we want to publish books that will help resource those conversations. And finally, we want to publish works of justice and liberation, works that are going to advocate for faith for a better future for a culture and a society in the world. And this particular book ticks a lot of those boxes. I think it's certainly a book that tells stories of God's grace in the lives of women of the Bible, in the lives of Madeline, in the lives of, and it's sets the stage for stories of God's grace in the lives of readers and communities. And it's also a work of spiritual formation. It speaks to how the Bible has an opportunity, if we're willing to hear, if we're willing to engage with it, to change our lives, to show us guidance, give us inspiration, give us wisdom, and help us live a good life and help us be good leaders of our own lives, of whatever community or enterprise we find ourselves in. And so, again, that's how this book sort of fits in with what Friendship Press is up to. And also, by the way, we own the right, or we manage the rights to the NCC's Bible translations, the Revised Standard Version and the New Revised Standard Version, updated edition. And so it's really important to us to get the Bible right, to have good, solid biblical study, good, solid interpretation of Scripture. And those of you who have read the book, or those of you who haven't, you're in for a real treat, because that good, solid biblical interpretation is on every single page, because Madeline is such a good biblical scholar, biblical interpreter. And I know you all know that because of your engagement with Bible Roads. And I want to reassure you, not that you need reassurance, that it shows up in the book. And Madeline has done a really, really great job of digging into the details of the Bible, digging into the details of the Bible story, and then bringing up to the surface the important lessons that we can find within it. So yeah, I'm really, you're going to hear me say this a lot over the next hour. I'm so, so excited for next Tuesday when this book gets released to the world.
Brian, would it be appropriate to use an example of this kind of um, relevancy that we've talked about with both some scholarship? Would that be helpful?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, well, many of you know the story of a lesser well-known character in the Bible. And if you don't, it's certainly worth reading. And I don't have all the details in front of me. I should have the book in front of me for one thing. That would be appropriate, wouldn't it? But there's a woman, a friend of mine who read the book ahead, just loves this woman, and he's kind of brought it to my attention. Her name is JL, and she's part of that whole wilderness Canaanite period. And it's a basic battle story. And the reason I put it in is because this is the story where a king who or a general who is fighting the Israelites realizes his soldiers are not doing well. All the chariots got stuck in the mud. So the general retreats and he thinks that the Jebusites, this tribe where Jael belongs, are friends of his group. Sort of they are, but she's not, which tells you right away she's thinking for herself. She's not going along with everything her husband or the tribal leaders say. Bottom line, he's exhausted. He's been in battle. What are the tools women have? And you all know that wonderful story about Elisha and the widow woman. What do you have in the house? And it's kind of that. What she had was hospitality. She had refreshments. She had a place where he could sleep. So she invites him to come in and refresh himself. She feeds him. She does all the gracious things you would think. And then he falls asleep and she kills him. And you're like, what? She just killed the guy. Well, it's a startling story. You don't hear it read very often in biblical Bible lessons. You don't hear it in sermons a lot. But the reason it's in this book is because of the title of the book, which is Free and Fearless. And it dawned on me, I wonder if that woman ever did anything even close to that in her entire life. And I've been watching the Ukraine-Russian war, like everybody on this call has. And I'm sure you all have thought about your counterpoints or counterparts in Ukraine. These women who are way too close to the front lines and have had to either say goodbye to husbands and sons and fathers who have gone to war, or they are literally in the war themselves. But I think it's a metaphor for how sometimes in our lives, we are called on to do things that are so far out of our comfort zone, and yet they seem like the right thing to do. Now, if you're sitting here thinking that is the silliest example she could have used, or the worst example, because Jesus said the Ten Commandments talk about thou shalt not kill. But the interesting thing in the Hebrew of thou shalt not kill is that it's murder. There is no prohibition against an Israelite killing as a member of an army and and to defend themselves, which of course Israel had to do through the centuries, including those battles go on today. Uh, I'm not making this a political comment. I'm saying that what I found in the Bible are surprising, sometimes shocking examples of people who had to put aside what the norm is in their culture. Women do not kill people, especially when they're asleep. And yet, she realized that this general was the leader of an enemy. She had an opportunity nobody else would, and she took it. And I think about, and Brian, you know the story of Carrie Ten Boom. And I don't know if all of you do, but do you want to just say a couple of a paragraph about her, Brian? I haven't read her book in a long time, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I'm not sure everybody in this group knows of her.
Yeah, so she was a woman who lived in I assume I think she lived in Nazi Germany. I know she and her sister were in a concentration camp, and she survived the concentration camp and wrote a book about that experience years later called The Hiding Place. One of the things that really stood out to me, probably really the only thing that stands out to me that I really vividly remember from the book is um, her sister was a really faithful person. Unfortunately, her sister died in the concentration camp. She didn't survive that experience. But her sister was deeply faithful. They were Christians and they had read scripture. And her sister said, we have to thank God in all things. This is the way we can go forward. And so she said, okay, here, even here in the concentration camp, we're going to praise God. We're going to thank God. And so she gave a prayer of thanks and she started listing off things to be thankful for. And one of the things she said is, God, thank you for the fleas in our beds. And Corey said, that's ridiculous. You should not thank God for fleas. And her sister said, no, the Bible says we thank God in all circumstances. So that means we thank God even for fleas. And her sister said, well, Corey said, I just can't thank God for fleas. A few days later, um, they were having a Bible study that they had snuck a portion of scripture into their barracks, and they would have Bible study each night, and they were always worried that the Nazi guards were going to confiscate their Bible and get them in trouble. And they overheard one night the Nazi guards were said, "Hey, the women are awake in there. We need to go see what's going on." And one of the guards said, I'm not going in there. There's fleas all over the place. I'm not going to go in there. And and so Corey said, wow, I guess I should thank God for even the fleas, because even the fleas could be part of God's plan for us, part of God's protection of us, even when we don't see um, the reason for it. That doesn't mean there's not a reason there.
And I
So,
think the part that I remember about her, Brian, that's such a great story. I remember that she was Dutch and she was very involved in the resistance to the Nazis and in many, many dangerous circumstances hid Jews all around her, in her home, everywhere she could think, and was later arrested for that and why she ended up in a concentration camp. And I just think, there are times when we have to be absolutely courageous, and maybe none of us will ever have to face that. But I think the point is the Bible is filled with often surprising examples of people in every circumstance that give us courage to go forward in sometimes quite unusual ways. So you go ahead, Brian. I know you've got
well,
other
I'm
things.
I'm I'm going to turn around and put you on the spot now.
Oh,
One of the one of my I'm always interested in the perspective from authors. What I have found is that every author approaches the writing process a little bit differently. And so I'd love to hear from you. What was the writing process like for you as you worked on this book? How did you approach it? Was it all smooth sailing? Did you really have to have an existential crisis and get over it? What was it like?
that's a great question. Well, I think James said in the beginning, this book grew out of a series of webinars I did for a year in 2023. And some of the people on our call may have been involved in that and are going to read some things that I talked about in the webinars. So I have friends who give talks, and they give maybe 2 to 3 new talks a year. I've been doing this, a new talk essentially every month, but I do it because, which is frankly a little bit of a tricky schedule. It's been quite demanding, but I love it because I'm always the one that learns so much. And so I'm doing it to learn more. And then I feel so privileged that there are other people who want to learn the same thing. And so we all kind of get to do this together. I'm just the one with a PowerPoint and maybe a little bit more historical background than some of the others. So the webinar was intact. I had a script for each of those, but oh my, it had to be edited. And after I did the first edit, then you came back and told me how many words I needed. And it was like, okay, I need to whittle out 30,000 more words and put in my own stories. That was where the real writing took place. And I frankly, my husband and I had a timeshare, and people would think this was ridiculous, but I went to Hawaii by myself and I sat on the lanai all day long, 10 hours a day last January, and I edited and wrote and edited and wrote. And that's what I did for a lot of hours a day. And I seem to work better in very concentrated slots. I read about authors that say every Friday from 9 to 12, I write, and I think, how on earth do people do that? It'd be like you'd have to recreate everything. So I'm much better, pretty intensely going deep. So that's how it happened. And then miraculously, you came back and said, okay, this is good. I'm sending it to the proofreader. And I was like, really? Have you read it? Are you? Because your own stories, you don't think nobody's going to be interested in these stories. But in the end, I thought, but they do illustrate how these women influence me. The courage of people like JL, the speed of Abigail. Abigail has always been one of my favorites. The woman who is married to a foolish man, Nabal, who the Hebrew term literally is foolish. And she realizes David, in his renegade mercenary days before he's king, is going to wipe out her farm and her husband and all the manservants because her husband was kind of thick about giving David food when he asked it. And so I love the speed at which she rode quickly to David with supplies. And I think sometimes we can overthink things. We can uh, miss opportunities. And I think life is filled with moments where decisions have to be made quickly. And you can make them too quickly. I realize that sometimes things get put in your way to slow you down. I've certainly had my share of those. But Abigail teaches us a very keen lesson. And that's just an example of, one of the stories I loved. And I think I wrote how it affected me in a situation. And you said, okay, this is good. We'll go with it.
So I wonder if you'd say a little bit about why this book, and you've sort of hinted around it already, right? Why not? You've taught on so many things. You've taught on you're teaching now on Isaiah. You've taught on lots of other topics. Why was this the one that you said I want to turn this one into a book?
I think James and Steve and another woman on our team, uh, she's the one that first said, her name is Anna from Nicaragua. And Anna was the first one to say, you ought to turn this into a book. And I thought that was kind of stunning. And the more I thought about it, the more I thought, well, that makes so much sense. Partly, again, because they've been very real to me. When I was in business and I look around this Zoom audience and I see many women at my stage of life, I think we all remember that women were not exactly welcome in the business world. And if they were, it was in lower levels. And I seem to always be the first female in every role. And I took, frankly, a lot of, you could say, punches. I felt like the first geese at the line of the V a lot, and you get a lot of wind in that front position and a lot of headwinds. Anyway, I think the women have always stood out to me. But I will tell you that before we had this idea, I thought of a fiction book because I have loved Paul since I was in my 20s. And I wanted to do a book on Paul, but my bookshelves, two of them are filled with books on Paul. We don't need another academic book on Paul, but I want to do a fiction book. So that's my next one in the hopper. And I, so, we different areas interest us.
Very cool. I I don't think I knew. I don't think you told me about the fiction book on Paul. We'll have to have a
I didn't
conversation.
think you'd want to publish it, so I didn't say anything.
So, so who's this book for?
Oh, it's for men and women. My experience with BibleRoads is we have a lot of women that participate, but we also have a hearty group of men, some of whom are on this call. And in the end, these are genderless free lessons. They're spiritual qualities of courage and faith and wisdom and uh, perseverance and insight and drive and humility and so many qualities. Who can't add those in depth to their experience? So for me, it's for men and women. My goal is that this is going to be a gift from a lot of mothers to daughters and grandmothers to granddaughters. I think role models for young women today are shockingly lacking. They they seem to be mainly Hollywood and sports figures. And while I'm not dissing any of them, I think we could do better. And the Bible is a timeless list of women role models. And by the way, Brian, I want to brag on you for a moment because you did something that we had 50, for those of you who are not part of it, we invited 50 people to read a PDF of the book because on September 2nd, when it goes live on Amazon, it would be great to have some book reviews on there. Although, Brian, what did you see today on Amazon? Is it already available or is it just for pre-orders?
It's for pre-orders right now. It releases on the second, but you can go ahead and buy it now.
Okay,
So yeah, you can go ahead and pre-order it, and then the title will be released on September 2nd. They will ship you your copy on September 2nd, and so you'll get it a couple days later. Yeah.
great.
Do you want
So,
me to show that Amazon page,
oh,
Madeline?
sure, sure. If you've got it handy, that'd be great. We were real excited. Steve found out the other day it got number one in
Number one, yes, number one new release
Yeah, number
already
one
with the
new release.
pre-orders, and that's through the support of this community that's on here right now.
It sure is. We can't thank you enough. And you all, I want to just say something about my motive. First of all, from a practical standpoint, just between us, you don't make money on books, but I'm not in this to make money. I kind of had my business career. I'm in this to expose the Bible to people that have dismissed it. We live in extremely secular society. In 25 years working in Los Angeles with some very senior folks throughout all of the studios, but one, uh, I had two clients who were Christians. And when they found out I was going to seminary, I began to wear a cross. Uh, they were just shocked. And I remember one guy who I won't say the name of the company he was president of, but it is a household word you would recognize. He said, "Why on earth are you going to seminary? I thought you were really smart." And I said, "I am. And that's why I'm coaching you." He really needed a lot of help in how he spoke to people. Let's just say he needed to tap down his bluntness a bit. But the point is that I didn't meet many people over many years in business who actively turned to the Bible as a guide, who read it regularly, etc. And this book is for them. I am trying to break through this resistance of biblical illiteracy in our time, not the people on this Zoom call, obviously not you all, but I think our world needs to rediscover the Bible. So my hope by asking you all this kind of blatant commercial thing, please buy the book on September 2nd. And then Steve found out, no, the pre-orders count. You can go ahead and buy it ahead and it'll still count for September 2nd. The reason for that is to see a biblical book pop up on Amazon's list of books. not just another David Baldacci or Vince Flynn or, an author that we all know and like, but not the Bible. So that was part of it. That was a really long answer, Brian. Sorry.
No, no, you sort of anticipated my next question, which was, what does you hope for the book? Um, you know, I the publication day next Tuesday is that's when you release it to the world, right? And there really is a little bit of letting go in that, because all of a sudden now you don't have control over it anymore. It's going in the hands of people, hopefully many people that excuse me, that you won't know. And really, you had to let it go earlier than that, right? Because you had to release it to me, and then we had to release it to the printer. And for me, that's the scary part. It's like, oh man, what's this thing? I've been in publishing for so long, but even so, when I send it to the printer, I'm like, oh, what did I miss? Oh no, what's it going to look like when we get it back? Thankfully, this book looks beautiful.
Thank
But
you.
I'm just wondering, what are your hopes for the release of this book? What do you hope for? What do you pray for the people who will read it?
It's very much like when I founded BibleRoads in 2012. I had always wanted to do biblical education, not just on the weekends. I was giving a lot of talks on the weekends, traveling a lot, but I really wanted to give my full attention. And it was very clear to me, everybody's got a niche, but my niche was for spiritual seekers. I didn't care about denomination. And I remember reading a phrase in a Eugene Peterson book who translated the message, and he talked about the de-churched and the unchurched. And I know a lot of people who are de-churched or unchurched. They never have had a church experience. And my hope would be, and many of my friends' children who are now starting their own families, they're beginning to think, and they've left any denomination long ago. They're beginning to think, maybe I should raise my children with something that's kind of a true north. Oh, but that wouldn't be the Bible. And they look for all these other things. And I want them to say, oh, maybe the Bible does have something to teach me. So that's why it was your idea, Brian, to put my stories in. I think it makes it much more accessible to people who have zero interest in the Bible, but they might have an interest in smart women or people who have had unusual experiences that touch on the notion of a higher power. And at the other extreme, I hope it sheds light on biblical women that audiences like all of you have known for decades. But maybe you'll learn some new tidbit that will bring them into your heart even more. So it's kind of for both.
It reminds me early on, you said the Bible is my leadership book. That is where I get my inspiration. That's where I get my guidance. That's where I get my lessons that I apply. And that really resonated with me. And I think that's going to show up in the book for a lot of readers as well. Yeah.
Good.
Um, I want to talk to all the people on the webinar real quick and say there are ways that you all can help looking ahead to next week, looking ahead to the release date next Tuesday. There's really three things that you can do that would actually make a really big difference. Number one, and this is probably the most important, if you've read the book, if you buy the book, please leave a review for it on Amazon. If you're on Goodreads or if you're on any other book review platforms, leave a review. It doesn't have to be very long, but leave a few comments and a star rating about the book. Anytime you go to Amazon, people look at those reviews and they want to see that that there's this energy behind the book, and we know it's there. You all are proof of that. But leaving a review is going to show the rest of the world who are not on this call that there is a lot of energy behind this book, and that, hey, there's something in here that's going to make a difference in my life. So that's number one. Leave a review, please. Number two, you can talk about the book on social media. You can take a picture of the book cover. You can share it along with a few comments about why you like it. And maybe you don't like it. And then if so, just please meditate on that in your heart. You don't need to tell other people that. Just, no, I'm just kidding. But no, spread the word about the book on social media, whatever platform you happen to be on. And then if you've got a book club or a church or other small group where you read books together, if you think this book will be a good fit, tell people about that. Recommend it to your book group. I think those three ways can make a really big difference. It can help this book reach as many people as possible.
I wonder, Brian, if uh, people have specific ideas they might want to share. Some people may have a lot more experience at this than I do, and I'd welcome any comments. Could we open it to everybody for a second? Maybe they have some specific ideas that could help others.
I think that's a great idea.
James, you'll have or Steve, control that. I don't know
Yeah.
what else to do.
Okay, so let's just we're going to stop highlighting you, and
Well, why don't we have people virtually raise their hand, and then we can call on them and also spotlight them.
you want to go that way instead? Okay. So I apologize, Steve. I'm sticking my finger into Steve's pie. I apologize, everybody. All right. So we're going to go back. All right. So please raise your hand if you have a comment that you would like to make about, especially if you have read the book already, or if you have ideas about how you might be planning to share the book.
Oh, there's Kim
Fair.
Cantor.
There's Fair Gordon right
and
there
Fair.
and
Great.
right there.
Yes, yes. Hi, everybody. I just wanted to say that I'm so looking forward to reading it. I have already bought it, but I don't have it yet, of course. But I'm hoping for the audiobook with Madeline reading it.
Oh,
So
Mm,
I'm looking
yes.
forward to that.
We're
wow,
pushing.
Fair.
I bet that's going to happen.
We're pushing for that.
Yeah. So yes, I'll be sharing on social media. And I know everybody else will too. So congratulations, Madeline.
Thank you so much.
Next. Just use the little icon in the bottom of your screen. You have an icon there where it says react.
I think Kim Cantor had something. Is she on? Maybe she could turn on her mic. I saw a quick thing, but it's gone. Oh, Bill Brandt said
I
Instagram.
am here. Sorry. Hello, Madeline. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
I actually have been sharing the pre-order link with friends and family. So I mean that wasn't mentioned, but I think that's another great way to get it out there. That can be shared on social media now.
Yeah. Thank you, Kim. I saw Bill Brandt said you can share on Instagram. That's great. I don't know if people have Instagram accounts, but that would be super.
A lot of people have Instagram, especially the younger generation that you are talking about, the moms and grandmothers handing down. Absolutely. Instagram is a big part of that.
Oh, there's Sue Crockett.
There's
and
Robin Clark is there.
This is Sue. Can you hear me?
Okay, Susan.
Okay. I'm sure this is every mom or grandmom is already thinking of this. I have three daughters-in-law and a granddaughter-in-law. And as I was listening this, so I'm up to 5 books now. And then I thought, oh, what about my neighbor that I happen to know? This would be perfect for her. And as I went on and on in this, I'm realizing I need to buy the actual book and give that to them. I'm not much on the social media Facebook thing. I'm really not. I'm very old school in that regard. but I'm excited about this because, for one thing, just the title in itself, this encouragement of women, will encourage these people that I'm particularly thinking about, the majority of them, who aren't really thinking of the Bible in terms of how it is supporting of them. So it can serve a dual purpose and bring richness to their and encouragement to their lives. And for that, Madeline, I thank you so much.
Thank you, Sue. It's so dear. There's Robin.
Yeah, hi. So I have read the book and I couldn't put it down. So I read it in 3 days and had a bit of fun giving some reactions to Madeline as I went along. It was a powerful read, and I think the cover was excellent. I think whoever designed that cover needs good praise because I think it's very appealing, and I like the title and so on. For me, the wonderful part is going to be I'm planning on giving it to a lot of people. Some who would not be normally biblical readers, because I think that the tone of the piece is not, let's say, dry and academic. There's a liveliness about, and there's an energy about the way the women are put forward. So look, I thought I knew the women of the Bible pretty well, but there were heaps of things that I found was new. Found myself highlighting because I was doing it electronically. That was a nice way to be able to record some of my reactions as I went. So yeah, I think it's brilliant, and I can't wait to start sharing it. One thing I am going to do is I belong to an interfaith book club, and I'm planning on giving a review of it in October.
Oh,
That's
thank you, Robin. Fabulous, fabulous. Anybody else?
Feel free to just raise your hand. It's a little yellow hand. Uh, we can't see everybody in this thing, so raising your actual physical hand is we can't really see you if you're on the second or third or fourth page necessarily. But
Hi,
just
can I
use
just
Jim.
speak up? Because I can't find out how you raise your hand on this thing. So I just unmuted myself as Barbara Nichols. And
Yes,
I did
Barbara.
read the pre one, as I said at the beginning, and I talked to you about. And, I know a lot of people that do book clubs or book, even in the church, they do. And I'm certainly going to recommend it. I actually volunteer at the Congregational Church, and they have a place where I help them. And they do book review, they read books and talk about them. And this is certainly going to be one I'm going to suggest to them, even though I don't go there. They're really nice people, and I think they would love it. They love these kind of things. And I actually was on a Bible study one time, and one of the people there said, they don't really talk about women in the Bible. And they just don't seem important to people. And this person, I have told him about this, and I don't, it just doesn't seem to register. But my goodness, it's going to have to someday, because Madeline, you have done such a beautiful job talking about these women that have been so fantastic, and they stand out. And when you read this book, you can't help but, I'm putting pieces together other than just those women, and how it works in a lot of other ways, not just for women, but just for people in general. And I am just so excited for you. I just love the book. So I
Great,
plan to
Barbara.
share it.
Thank you, thank you. How about Jim Patterson and Kay? They have to unmute. Jim and Kay, are you there? Your hand's up. Maybe we go to, oh, there.
There you go.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Well, we're using a new little tablet that we've been traveling with, and we're so thrilled to see you. And you look absolutely gorgeous.
Thank you, Kay.
Yeah. I pre-ordered 2 books, but I've sat here and thought my granddaughter just gave birth to our great granddaughter. And so she is not a regular churchgoer, but I added her to the list. And I also thought there are bound to be websites out there for mothers, new mothers of girls. And I'm going to ask her if she could help share this and get her involved in supporting it after she reads it. So I've got just sitting here tonight, like many of the others have thought about several other places that it needs to go. I'm going to also get a copy and put it in the Interfaith Library just down the street from where I am. And I'm just so excited about getting it and reading it. So thank you so much, Madeline, for doing it. And James, it's wonderful to see your good-looking face.
And Madeline, I've got several people that I think I can give it to, and there's a group of women that I know that are working hard in the school systems to turn them around in this city. And I'm going to meet with them Thursday night, actually, and look forward to talking to them about this book.
So thank you so much for doing this, Madeline. It's going to be.
You guys are great. What a good ideas. Thank you. Hey, Debbie Brandt.
Hey, hold on a second. There's okay. Okay. All right. I have ordered 3 already, and I can think of several more people I want to order them for. But I wanted to show a different slant on how it's. I haven't read it yet. I'm looking forward to it, getting my copy. But I was listening to a story on NPR today, and it was about the oppressive things that are going on in Afghanistan with the Taliban for women, and how they're not able to be in school past the age of 12, and how oppressive and how it's affected these women. And it was a very depressing story. But in thinking about this book and these women who were uneducated, but how much of an effect they've had on history and the Bible and people around them, and how much they enabled, they were the wind beneath the wings of people like Elijah and Elijah and Moses and David, when you talked about Abigail, and how they were very often the silent supporters of some of the big names, the marquee names, but there were these uneducated and sometimes under oppression also. So when thinking about and praying about women in other parts of the world who are under tremendous oppression, it lifted me out of the sadness of listening to that story and thinking about all they can accomplish right where they are, despite the political regimes they may be under, and thinking about them really under a larger government and God's government. So thank you for making me think and tie that together. And I'm looking forward to reading it.
Debbie, that's wonderful. I just want to say a quick thing. Before I did the webinars and wrote this, I knew about Rahab, the servant slave girl of Sarah and Abraham, but I never realized how hugely important her contribution has been. And she is a great example of the kind of woman you're talking about, where too many societies today have them in those very oppressed positions. And yet she was able to find God. And that Genesis 16 chapter is packed with insight. And she's just such a great role model of what you're talking about. So thank you for bringing that up. Brian, I know the time is marching on. Do you want to finish up with anything, or what's your thought? Or James, how you all want to go forward?
Brian, I'm sorry. just if you just click on the chat, Madeline, there were a couple of questions that flashed through the chat. Wondering about book reviews from Kirkus Reviews, Goodreads, the Monitor, New York Times, or anything that people can do to get on those lists. Probably that's probably a Brian question.
That is definitely a Brian question. Which one is it, James? So he can.
That's
Oh,
Michelle
I
Gervais.
see it. Yeah.
Oh, great.
Yeah. Yeah. So getting book reviews for um Kirkus Reviews, Christian Science Monitor, and New York Times, those all have their own submission requirements, and so we can certainly submit review requests for them. And it's really, we can make our best pitch, and then it's on to their reviews editor to do that. Goodreads, I don't know if they've got an official reviewer or not, but Goodreads. A lot of those that's really a community review spot, and so if you all have a Goodreads account, you can go on and review the book on Goodreads, and then it'll show up there as well. And certainly if you think of any other places that would be good outlets, one other place I plan to submit for a review is the Christian Century, which is a Christian magazine. So yeah, but the short answer is they've all got their own requirements. We'll be submitting for that, and then it's on their review team, and hopefully they at least a few of them will decide, hey, we want to review this book.
And I just want to
Okay.
say, when those of you who have pre-ordered, that you drove that little number that Amazon put on their number one new release. It's in a category that Brian and others put on to Amazon. But the fact that you did that is what makes newspapers like the New York Times and the Christian Science Monitor and Christian Century sit up and pay attention, because I'm not known. This is my first book, and they won't know me from the Man in the Moon. But you all ordering, they pay attention to that. And Brian, you can correct me if this is wrong, but I was told in a writing course I took years ago that one of the things that most drives book sales by people who don't know the author or the book are the number of reviews, not even the reviews themselves. So when Brian said, put something up there, that actually is important. Is that still accurate, Brian?
It sure is, and I'll just we sort of know that just because of our own experience, right? Whenever I don't know about you, I can only speak for myself, but whenever I buy anything on Amazon, I pay attention to the reviews, and I will generally read one or two of them. But mostly, if I see there's a lot of reviews and it's 4.5 stars overall, that to me is a pretty good indicator, right? And so that carries a lot of weight. So if I see that there are a number of reviews and that generally they're pretty high, that to me that goes a long way. And um, uh, you know, Amazon will let you put a review without any actual comments. You can do that too. It's better if you do leave a few comments and say one or two things that you would to recommend. But you don't need to write a big long paragraph. You're of course welcome to do that if you want to, and we won't say no. Please don't do that. But it's not necessary. You can just write just a few words, and it'll absolutely count.
The
That's
next
great.
question down right after that one is asking about promotional materials to share on like bulletin boards or whatever. Um, I know, Brian, we from Madeline's side could probably do something electronic that people could share. I don't know if is that something you've played with in the past?
Yeah, yeah, that would be the answer for us as well, is we could provide something electronic that you could either share electronically or print out and put up, but we're not really set up to actually print the things and ship them to you, but we could certainly do something electronic.
Great. That'd be fabulous, because I know a lot of churches and faith communities have bulletin boards still. And people
Yeah.
still read bulletin boards, don't they? So
Yes.
that's a
Lori,
great thing.
I'll just do one more because I know you're looking at the clock here, but Lori Biddle is commented that she's going to order it through the local library to make sure it's on the library shelves.
Oh,
What a
what
great
a good
idea.
idea. Thank you,
Anyway,
Lori Biddle. Can you raise your hand and wave to us so we can all say thank
or
you?
yeah, raise your.
I think she's on another page, or she
I
might
think
have
so
her
too.
screen.
If she can raise her virtual hand, we can find her.
Yeah, her virtual hand. Oh, there she is. Hey, Lori Biddle. Thank you. That is such a great idea.
Yeah, I'll try it.
I
Great, great.
I'd like to say something.
Please.
I'm an ex-librarian, and so once you ask for it, then I hope they buy it. But once it's on the shelf, periodically make sure it's getting checked out, because if it doesn't get checked out in a fairly short period of time, they discard like mad. And then you can buy it for almost nothing in their book sale. But yeah, it's really important to make sure that a book you want to stay on the shelf gets checked out.
Good point. Boy, we have a lot of experience in this group. That is such a good point. Thank you. Brian, do you want to, yeah, you close with anything?
I've just got one question. If I see one more person, Claire Stoddard posted about, she said next door is a great place to post as well. I would love to hear more about that. I am unfamiliar. I know I'm generally familiar with Nextdoor. I'm not an active user of Nextdoor. I don't usually think of it as a place where I would post about books, but I'm really curious if that is a good place to go, and if so, what would be your recommendation for putting that up? Like, if Claire's available to say something about that.
I am. I just unmuted myself. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Well, I use Nextdoor all the time. I think it's in most neighborhoods and it's very local, but they've got, tons of them, I think all over the country. And people go there for information. And I have gotten handymen and plumbers and people share information. The idea is you hear from your neighbors. I found my cat who got out, that way. And people make recommendations. And I was just thinking this would be, it's not like you're pushing they sort of don't let you push products, but this isn't really something that you would push a product. It's not like you're pushing a product with it. It's really something, particularly with the holiday seasons coming up. Hey, I just read this. This is, I'm going to give it to my grandkids. I just want to share this idea with my neighbors that, this might be something you want to, you know, it's a wonderful message for your families and your friends. And all you have to do really and truly is you go on their site and there's a place where you fill out, the form and you hit post and it's posted. And they do monitor it to a certain extent. I mean, they do take some things down that are really inappropriate, but I can't think that there would be any reason this would be taken down. And it gets tremendous viewership. And you can say how large of a range. I mean, basically, I'm in New Jersey, so I don't go much beyond New Jersey. But if everybody on this call looked for the next door in their area, it would get quite a bit of it would get a pretty broad posting.
That's a great
Thank you,
idea,
Claire.
Claire. Wouldn't have thought of that. Good, good, good.
Claire is a pretty good personal friend. Hello, Claire. Haven't talked to you in a while. We got to catch up.
We do.
Yes, we do. But for everybody, Claire does have a strong marketing mind, a good marketing background. I think that is a brilliant idea to help put this out into neighborhoods. If you can start a neighborhood kind of campaign and momentum, grassroots, boots on the ground, all of those things, it's going to go.
James, I have one last comment. I want to give a big shout out to Brian because he made a decision that I thought was fabulous. When I originally did this, I covered the women in chronological order. And while Brian was fine with that, he had a better idea. And he went in, and as he was reading, it became very clear to him that certain women in these certain stages express certain qualities. So as a result, the first chapter is called Women of Spirit. The second, Women of Action, Women of Deliverance, Women of Strength, etc. And I love those chapter headings because then you can kind of say, oh my gosh, I'm stuck in my job. And so you might start with chapter 2 instead of chapter 1, Women of Action. Well, how did they get out of stuckness? And that's where uh, Rebecca and Rachel and Leah's stories are. So, Brian, that was such a good idea. Thank you for that. And then why don't we close with you wrapping up since you're the guru publisher?
Well, so I will just say I'm really I think it's a testament both to the quality and the characteristics of these biblical women and to your writing that it was very easy to do that in the book and put that structure on. That it as I started to look for it and I didn't have to look very hard. It was already there and it was really just making a couple little shifts, but to me that says these qualities that are named in those chapters, spirit, grace, strength, leadership, deliverance, all of those things are characteristic of the women in the Bible. And all of those things are characteristics that you are able to call out in your writing and in your stories. And so I'll just end by saying, what a great message for new students of the Bible and seasoned students of the Bible to say, take a look at these fabulous characters, these fantastic, strong and courageous, free and fearless women, and let's see what we can learn from them, and let that be our entry point into this wonderful world of Scripture.
Fabulous. Thank you all so much for coming. Much love to you. Bravo.